Hi everyone, this is David Aragona with this week's TimeForm US Spotlight. We're going to take a look at the late pick 4 sequence on Saturday at Saratoga. The big race is obviously the Whitney, which goes as race 9, but there are 4 really interesting stakes races to dive through, 2 on the dirt, 2 on the turf. Let's start with race 8. It's the Grade 1 test for 3-year-old fillies going 7 furlongs. This is a really competitive race, and of the 4 races in this weekend sequence, I think this is the one we really have to spread around the most because there are just so many contenders to sift through. I think we can start by looking at the TimeForm US pace projector for this race because there is quite a bit of speed. The 2 fillies that hooked up in the victory ride last time, Classy Act and Mia Mischief, they're the 2 that figured to be out in front today. It'll be interesting to see what they do with Mia Mischief because whereas she was drawn inside of Classy Act in the victory ride, in this race she's drawn outside, so they might be able to stalk outside of that foe. Classy Act, she just ran incredibly well in the victory ride. I mean, the pace of that race was extremely fast. You see in her PPs the color-coded red TimeForm US pace ratings for the first 2 fractions. That first pace figure of 156 is just very high for that distance. And she ran really well to just lose that race by a neck. I mean, the winner came from far back. She was a long shot in that race. Classy Act really outdoed all of the other top contenders. And if she repeats that performance in the test, I think she's one of the most likely winners of this race. It's just, can she withstand all that pressure and hold off the closers again going 7 furlongs? That's the big question. I think she's one of the horses to beat. The other filly to consider it for me out of the victory ride is Separation of Powers. She just basically lost all chance at the start that day where she stumbled very badly from the rail post position, and she found herself in a situation she had never really been in before. She was far back. She had to make a run from over 12 lengths back in that race, and she actually did really well to get up to 4th at the end of that race. She had to kind of alter course at the top of the stretch when other runners were kind of fanning out for the run into the wire. And I thought she handled the situation very well. In this race, she's got the tactical speed to kind of slot in behind the speeds, work out a good stalking trip. I think she can get the 7 furlongs. She ran well in the Frisette last year when she won that race, so I really have no question about the distance. And to me, she just seems like the right filly to take in this race. I don't think we're going to get a huge price. She's 7-2 on the morning line. I would like to get that. But she's my pick in this race. At a big price, I also want to throw in the number 9 horse, Kelly's Humor. Just if the race totally collapses at the end, she's got some quality to her. I like her one-turn sprint races. And for Brad Cox, you don't often get Brad Cox at a price in these big races, and I think Kelly's Humor is one to kind of throw in, especially in exotics underneath. Moving on to race 9, the Whitney, the feature on this card. This is a matchup between the 2 New York breds, Diversify and Mind Your Biscuits. I'm strongly in favor of Diversify in this race. He just ran exceptionally well in the Suburban last time. He earned a 133 TimeForm US speed figure, which is really one of the top numbers that a handicap horse has earned this year. You see the red color-coded TimeForm US pace ratings for the early part of that race. He just totally strung that field out, ran them off their feet. None of the closers could make a dent at the end of that race. And to me, if he runs that race back, I think he's going to win here. I like that the connections have gotten aggressive and changed plans. They were originally going to run in the Woodward. He worked well last week. Now they've changed course and are running in the Whitney. I think that's a good sign. Indicates he's going to run well today or on Saturday. And I just think he is way the horse to beat in this spot. And I really strongly prefer him to Mind Your Biscuits, who's trying to do something new for the first time. He's also going to be a relatively short price in this race. And while I respect Mind Your Biscuits' talent, I thought he ran very well in the Metropolitan Mile last time against B Jersey, who really had everything his own way up front. And Mind Your Biscuits was the only horse to really make a dent at the end of that race, closing from off the pace. That said, while I think he's a nice horse, I just have little confidence in him stretching out around 2 turns. It really takes a horse with stamina to handle this 9 furlongs around 2 turns at Saratoga, and I just don't see him as a horse that really is well suited to it as a son of Posse. He's run well going 7 furlongs to a mile, but all around 1 turn before, and I just don't really see him handling this distance. The other horses I would kind of include as backups to Diversify or Taproot, who kind of got floated out in the stretch at the Suburban last time, and Good Samaritan, who will appreciate the stretch out in distance. Moving on to race 10, I think this Wea, going 1.5 miles on the Saratoga turf, I think it's a 2-horse race between the likely favorite Santa Monica and the 2-horse Moms on Strike. Santa Monica, if you watch her win the Dance Smartly at Woodbine last time, it was very visually impressive. I mean, once Jose Ortiz steered her out into the clear, she really came with a big late kick, and it looked like her stablemate Inflexibility, who was kind of on the lead at the end of that race, was going to battle back, and Santa Monica just easily inhaled her and won apparently with something in reserve. I like her races in this country. She handled 1.5 miles at Keeneland 3 back. She handled 1.5 miles in Ireland when she was campaigned overseas last year. It just seems like stretching out in distance is going to make her even more formidable in this spot. So I think Santa Monica is the horse to beat, but to me, Mom's on Strike is a worthy foe for her because I liked her race at 1.5 miles, 2 back in the Bewitch when she easily handled Daddy's Little Darling, who's a nice filly. Last time out in New York, she was facing some of the top fillies in the country going that distance on the turf, and I just thought she kind of got lost in that race. Adam Beschizza had her way out in the center of the course for the entire race, losing ground to other horses, and horses like Four Star Crook and Sister Charlie just got the jump on her, but she really got going at the end of that race. Mom's on Strike did. That was 1.25 miles. Now she's stretching back out to 1.5 miles in a race that doesn't feature much pace. So I think she can be a bit closer. And to me, she's one to use in conjunction with Santa Monica in the pick 4 sequence. And I'll also kind of press her on the win end because I think she should be a decent price in this race in around 3-1, 7-2. So I'm taking Mom's on Strike and Santa Monica in the Weah. The final race, the Lure, it'll be interesting to see what the turf condition is because there is plenty of rain in the forecast that could affect a horse like Voodoo Song, who probably is going to be the favorite in this race. He's the main speed, and he obviously loves Saratoga, having won 4 races up here last year. It's just he's a horse that really appreciates a firm, rock-hard course, and I doubt he's going to get it on Saturday with all of the rain that's supposed to come. So we'll see if he runs. We'll see if he gets the course that he needs, but he is strictly the horse to beat in this race. There are plenty of others to use, like Bella Rocks, who's got back class and has handled courses but some given the ground, and Spectre Lindley, who ran well at Churchill last time. A horse at a price that I would throw in, though, is the number 10 Black Type. There isn't a ton of speed in this race, and Black Type should be forwardly placed under Joel Rosario. Importantly, he's a horse that has handled given the ground in the past. He loves this distance of 1.16 miles, and I think his last race just might have given him some confidence when he won against Optional Claiming Company. So he's coming into this race in good form. Christophe Callant's runners have been firing, and he's going to be a price. So I'll try to use him prominently late in the pick 4 sequence. But fantastic races on Saturday at Saratoga, the Whitney card. Really looking forward to it. Now let's send it back to the studio.